Welcome to the Safety by Design podcast series with Pam Tompkins. My name is Nick Leonardi. I'm the Creative and Marketing Director for Utility Business Media. And I have with us Pam, who's going to be doing a article series in Incident Prevention Magazine starting next year. Her first issue will be the February issue of Incident Prevention, entitled Safety by Design. Pam, welcome to the podcast, and let people know a little bit about you, because I don't think people realize how much you've done in the industry.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here. Well, I've been in the industry for over 40 years and a long time, and started kind of in an engineering group years ago and ended up as a safety consultant for the last 20 something years and had a lot of opportunity to work all over pretty much the world. So I really appreciate this. I had a great opportunity some years ago to be the founding member of the CUSP and help in that, bringing the CUSP to where it is today. So I really have enjoyed this industry, and this series is going to be extremely important. I think things that I've learned over the years that really work in safety and really can take your safety processes to the next level. So I'm really excited. Thanks, Nick, for having me.
Well, thanks for being here. You know, people have seen you at our IP utility safety conferences. You're very well respected, very well attended sessions. And I think it's going to be exciting for people to read about you and your experiences in incident prevention. And as you said, you are a founding member of the USLN and the CUSP program, and we thank you for that, because we've seen what a wonderful certification program that is, the only utility specific safety credential. So thanks for being here. How about we dive into, we're not going to give the whole article away, but why don't you talk a little bit about the article you've written for this upcoming issue of Incident Prevention?
Yeah, well, very good. Thank you so much. I just really want to start out by talking a little bit about safety, and that's what the first article is about. Is really to set the stage for where safety is in the world today in electric power. And I'd say electric power probably throughout the world in every organization. But you have to really think about this in when we talk about safety, what does safety actually look like? And if you go around and you talk to a lot of different people, they'll say, well, that means people getting to be able to go home safe every day, just the way they came to work. And they give you a lot of information about that, and I love that. But honestly, this series and these articles are going to talk about, all right, if we want to have our people to go home safe every day, then, we got to have a plan. We got to have a way to get there. I always say that if you don't know where your plan is, how are you going to know if you got there? So that's what this is always going to be talking about. So let's just dive into just some bare bone basics about safety. And I like to have the analogy of electric power, because, we're in the electric power industry. So when you talk about safety, it's all about danger, all about those hazards and threats that are in our organizations that either harm our individuals or harm our organizations. And so what we have to do is figure out what they are. In the old days of safety, we used to figure out what they were because OSHA told us what they were. I'll be honest. Over the years, I will tell you that I always, if you've been in any of my presentations, you will know that I call OSHA an F student. So we can't be there. We've got to figure out what those hazards and threats are, and then we've got to build a system by design to ensure that we're protecting from that. And so we've got danger kind of down here, and we've got safety up here. And I call this we got to keep the air gap there. It's just like minimum approach distances in our world. We can't ever let those lines equal each other, either intersect each other. We've got to keep them a distance. And to be able to keep them a distance, first of all, we got to know what's going to be up here in safety. And we've got to know how we're going to run these safety systems to insulate our people and to insulate our organization. So I think that that's probably like one of the most important fundamental things to think through as we kind of go through this. I know that a lot of organizations have a lot of safety initiatives. I always call that more safety stuff. I've got this safety to have this safety to have this safety to have this. And it's just like more initiatives are better. I'm here to tell you that honestly, as a consultant, I see it all the time. That does not mean that you are strong in your safety processes just because you're doing more busy safety things. So in this series, we're going to talk about some of the key things that will take you to a higher level in safety and help build that design for safety. So I think that that's like one of the most important pieces out of this. So I call it a plan, because if you don't have the plan, as I said earlier, how are you going to know how to get there to the plan? And I like to use the analogy of this, and I kind of used it in the article, so you'll get kind of a preview of this. But not having a plan is just like sending a line crew out on a job site, not giving them a staking sheet, not giving them any tools to do their work, not giving them any kind of design to figure out what the system design is going to look like, not having a leader on that site that can take them to where they need to be, or those kind of things, and so on. So in safety, a lot of times when we have like all the initiatives that I talked about earlier, is kind of like this. We don't have anything that could build the power line out on the system. So we have nothing in place that can build safety support to support the organization and the people. So I think it's very, very important. Now, in this series, we're also going to be talking about some standards. To build a power system, we have standards. You have a lot of standards in place and a lot of regulatory pieces that are in place. And so I like to always go back to a standard. So there are some national standards, some international standards that really tell us what safety should look like in all of our organizations. And so we'll kind of mention some of those standards as we go through. And hopefully you'll get an opportunity to go out and get some of those standards. ANSI is a great organization that helps support in a lot of things. So ANSI standards and also ISO standards, which are international standards. So those are some of the things that we'll do. Nick, what's your thoughts? Do you have any questions at this point?
Yeah, one of the things I heard you say, was sometimes not quantity of safety programs, but quality of your initiatives and your programs, I think matter. I mean, something that has been talked about by a lot of different folks is the numbers, have not really changed year to year lately. They've kind of stagnated. And so we have all these great tools out there. The question is, are they working? Are we verifying that they're working? If they're not, let's not just bolt on another safety program. Let's figure out what's working, what's not. I mean, every group is different. So I'm excited for folks to be exposed to kind of your series that we're going to be going through, because I feel like a lot of times we talk a lot about safety. We initiate a lot of different programs, but we don't necessarily verify those programs.
Well, absolutely. That's a very important piece, because I said that, more safety doesn't mean that you have safety. So it is important in any organization to figure out what's working and what's not working. You can't make a lot of change. If you've got a lot of things happening in your organization and you've got a lot of initiatives, you do need to get a baseline on that. And I say a baseline, when you built your initiative, you should have already had a key performance indicator tied to that. What did I want to get out of that? What did I want to gain out of that? And with that key performance indicator, you've got a measurable tool. If you don't have that in your organization, that is a very important piece that has to be connected to that. So early on in the design of safety, every initiative, and I'll call it initiative in this series, I'm going to also call it a component, but every initiative should have something in it, some end result that you want to accomplish out of it. Without having that, there is really literally no way to measure anything. If you don't know where you want to be, how are you going to know if you got there? So I think that is a very important piece. We see a lot of organizations that when you come in, I think it is important for all organizations to figure out, are they at least doing what the industry is doing? You know, industry best practices on some basic things that have extremely high risks, such as grounding, such as minimum approach and isolate programs, such as de-energizing lines and equipment for employee protection. All of these programs have to have measurable tools to figure out if they are working, or I say programs, initiatives.
Yeah, what's your, something I thought about. Unfortunately, I think it's semi-common in the industry that a lot of people seem to be reactive to injuries and stuff like that instead of being proactive. And, what's your experience about that? And I heard you say something that ties that in is kind of doing, we, instead of just pushing in a safety program, doing an assessment first to find out that baseline. I don't know how many people actually go through that step. I think that's vitally important to putting the right safety program into your organization.
Yeah, absolutely. I think an assessment is extremely important. You know, we have a lot of experience with that. And honestly, most of the time, I say most of the time, I'd say 70% of the time, assessments occur after something's happened. You know, somebody's in a reactive mode, they're trying to figure out what happened. In this series, I hope that we can bring you to a place where you can think that I've got to really figure out where I am and do that before something happens. Because in the world of safety, we can almost, and this sounds crazy, we can almost somewhat project because of the safety initiatives and how they're supporting the organization, that you have such a weakness in the organization that it's not going to support your organization when there are things that occur within your organization. And I say things that occur when you start having a lot of incident occurrence that build up to this what we call a SIF, you know, a significant injury or fatality. And a lot of times in the past, we've talked about all the busy things or all the things that are happening in our organization. In today's world, we're talking more about, let's really focus on those high risk areas for assessments. Let's try to figure out where we're at with that, because those are the ones, or those SIFs, that will take our organizations out. So an assessment is extremely important. I definitely recommend that internal assessments be completed. Certainly, you got to know what you're going to assess and how you're going to assess it and build your plan for that, but also external assessments. And in these standards that I was talking about earlier, they have a whole section that is kind of related to that, that talks about the importance of internal and external assessments for your organizations.
Yeah, I think something that a lot of organizations probably start to understand when they do an assessment is that these signs exist, like you're talking about, before it gets to a SIF, right? There's behavior, employee behavior that's happening, that if you did an assessment would be brought up. And so the goal is to, subvert that before it gets to a SIF. And assessments, I think, are important. It's funny, I don't hear that a lot. I think it's important to do them proactively. I think you said 70% was kind of what you're seeing is people doing them reactively.
Sure.
And I don't know why. I know the work it's busy, the industry's busy, we're shorthanded. Maybe that has something to do with why we're not doing that. But I think if the goal is to get the work done and to do it safely, get people home, we should be doing everything. And I think always being proactive is better than being reactive.
Absolutely. Well, I'll just tell you, assessments are tough. They really are. For an organ, it makes a organization vulnerable. And you brought up a really good point. You talked about employees, how they respond. But I think that what you will find out a lot of times in our organizations is the organization is maybe not supporting everything as much as they think they're supporting. Because a lot of times the organization with all these busy things that they're doing, they think, my gosh, I'm putting all this money, all this time into making safety work in my organization. Why am I having all these things happen? And when you come in for an assessment, it is a lot of things that are just so fragmented all over the place that nothing aligns. Just the same as a crew that has to go out and build that power line out on the line crew. All these things have to align to be able to build that power line. The exact same thing has to happen in safety. When you have all these things that are fragmented, nothing aligns. And when I say aligns, you've got upper management are seeing one thing, middle managers are seeing something else, people in the field are seeing something else, and everybody thinks they're all talking the same language, and they're not. I'll just be honest. They're not. They're not talking the same language, and it's just so fragmented.
Yeah, I mean, even at some of the companies I've been in the past, I think they call it being in the weeds, and when you do an assessment, I think what that does is it gets you above board, and you can really see the lay of the land and what's actually happening. But, in the day to day, you're just trying to get everything done. And like you said, you think you're talking the same language, and you realize you may be far from talking the same language.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I'm excited to, dive into your series here, as we look for the 2025 incident prevention, magazine series with you, as well as this podcast that we're going to do with you that kind of follow the articles. So everyone should look out for these. Like I said, the first issue is coming in February of 2025. Pam is a wealth of knowledge, and it's nice to hear a female voice because you are so knowledgeable and assertive, and it's refreshing. So thank you for being a part of this. Thank you for sharing your experience, and everything that you've done for the industry.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity. I look forward to it.
Well, thank you. Yes. So tune in. Like I said, we'll follow the articles here, and Pam will have her own mini segment on our podcast channel. So, and are you planning to come to Charleston for the IP conference?
I am.
Okay. I'm sure there'll be a lot of people looking forward to that because there's people asking about you. So,
well, thank you. Thank you. Yes, I look forward to it.
sounds good. Well, thank you so much for your time, Pam. And with that, look out for our issue coming up in February.
Thank you very much.
Join us for the IPI Forum, a monthly event designed for utility safety and ops professionals. Each session brings expert insights on industry topics, trends, and best practices from leaders like David McPeak and Jim Vaughn. Register once and stay connected to a network of peers, ready to share knowledge and solutions. Don't miss this free opportunity. Secure your spot today and earn 1 certification point. Visit ip-institute.com to learn more and register.
The views, information, and opinions expressed during this podcast are solely those of the individuals involved and do not necessarily represent those of Utility Business Media and its employees. It is strongly recommended that you discuss any actions or policy changes with your company management prior to implementation.